Hello. Hello.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you then.
Okay, I might need to get headphones. One sec.
Oh, congratulations. Oh, maybe we should wait another minute and see if more people joins. In the meantime, feel free to sign in yourselves. Sean, welcome. Hey.
All right.
So I know that Andrea will be hopefully joining, but sometime later. He needed to get his kids from school today.
Oh, okay.
So uh,
I'm actually in Europe, so I'm like on your guys' time.
oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
So where in Europe are you?
Yeah, I'm in France right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, just vacation for a little bit with the family.
Oh, vacation, but on the way working, at least on CDEvents.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I wanted to do a little bit of work and then I was waiting for Andrea's response. But he didn't really say much on the when we were talking about the examples. So I was just like, oh, I'll just push something, see
Hmm?
if that works. So
Yeah, that's a good start. So let's get started on the meeting, shall we? So I've added some things to the agenda today, and some of you have already added some things as well, I've seen. So the intention is to look into a bit of the current state of the governance and contributor ladder proposal. Then I see, Jalander, that you have added an approach for Gerrit integration, and Adam, you've added about the Flux integration there. And then, of course, we should talk about the connecting events now as well, since Ben is here. We have the ticket proposal, and then Java SDK updates, if any. Any thoughts on the order of things here? I'm not sure which order we should take things, but since we have quite a lot of things on the agenda, we shouldn't spend too much time on each of them. But to me, this order is okay, and if you don't mind, let's take it this
oh,
way.
I'm really interested in the Garrett CD event
Hmm?
integration.
Cool.
So yeah, maybe can we start with that one first? I'm just kind of curious what the
Yeah,
thought process and what that's going to look like.
yeah. I think for the proposal on governance, I think we should wait for Andrea. So let's delay that until a bit further down in the meeting here. We can maybe put it somewhere here. See when he joins, we can see if we should raise it up. But anyway, so yeah, that's fine with me. We don't have any new attendees really this meeting at the moment, and no action items really from previous. So now we lost Jalander. You were here recently.
Yeah, I think
So
he just dropped off, right? Like
yeah,
just a
maybe
few minutes
she
ago.
pushed the wrong button or something when
Yeah,
trying to,
yeah.
I don't know, share or something. Should we wait for Jalander then, you think, or should we take in Adam in between? Maybe we should
Either
go for
one
Adam
works
while
for
waiting for
me.
Adam,
Yeah,
if you want to share your
suppose I can
Flux
go.
integration stuff, yeah.
Yep. So I brought up into discussion in the Flux dev meeting, a discussion I had to integrate CDEvents into Flux. I'll post the actual GitHub discussion here. Yep. So it began with that, and then we brought it into Flux, and I just showed up showed off a really quick kind of receiver and provider demo, kind of proof of concept, very basic. The receiver just receives a CD event in the form of a curl post request, and then the provider just posted a CD event object from the Go SDK. Yep, and we got some good criticisms on that. Some pretty big thoughts on. They are pretty much okay with the receiver as is, but the provider was a little bit more complicated since it the actual event sent out would need to be mapped to whatever Flux events was going in. So there was discussions on mappings and kind of what data would be put into it, because not all data in Flux is end to end.
Right. Yeah.
That was pretty much
So
just a
what
result
is the
of
next
that.
steps on this then? What
So I
was
think the
discussed
next
on the
step
next steps?
for now is so they were happy enough with the receiver, so I'm gonna try kind of split the two up into two different pull requests at this point. So at the moment, my plan is get a pull request ready for the receiver, get that sponsored by a member of the Flux community or a Flux maintainer. I think is what you have to do for that, and then once that's integrated, start working on kind of the discussed ideas of the provider, because that was a bit more complicated.
Yes, I think on the provider side, like I think there's going to have to it's not going to. I think on the receiver side, they were sort of going, it's ready nearly for implementation, that it can go to sort of an implementation stage of delivery, where the provider sort of descending of events needed a good bit more discussion before before they could see it being implemented. To decide like what events to send, and then even to go through the details of the fields. Like even they had a big discussion on the meaning of the source. You know, so I think there's probably going to have to be a bit of education, probably on both sides, as to sort of mapping the events to each other. But they did
things we should clarify on our end, do you think, in the CDEvents documentation as well, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be a bit of, I think we have to sit back a little bit on our, you know what I mean, first try to come up with some sort of a proposal. And even in that, I think maybe some of the things that we would discover would need to get I think they'll be common to other potential senders of the events, and we should probably document them so that it's clear for other people. One thing that they did bring up that I thought was quite interesting, like sort of to discuss here, was the idea that of like they have a source code monitoring. So they monitor, for example, they listen to GitHub notifications, and then they react based on the GitHub notifications. And they've seen in other places where people were listening to their events about what was happening in GitHub, because rather than people monitoring setting up webhooks into GitHub directly, they were looking at events coming from Flux related to source code changes. So I'm only just bringing it up here as an interesting point of, because they were almost considering, would we send source code related events from Flux related to what they were observing in GitHub, which to me could seem like you could end up with a duplication of events.
Yeah, sure. That shouldn't happen, of course. So in an event setup or an event aware system, you should have, of course, one producer of the source change events and one producer of the other kinds of events, I would say. So there shouldn't be any risk of duplication or sending the same event from multiple places. That should be avoided, I would say.
It should be avoided. But what they were
Mhm.
bringing up was I think it was an interesting practical situation of their tool had an integration with GitHub, so was aware of these changes and
Yeah.
could in order to reduce the amounts of if GitHub's not going to send CD events natively,
Mhm.
and you're looking for and I use the word probably incorrectly, for as a proxy for GitHub, get the events to be sent from something like Flux as a source of the events. Just when they brought it up, I thought it was an interesting discussion point.
For sure it is. For sure it is. So yeah.
I don't think that's the right approach, in my opinion. Honestly, I think what would probably be a better approach to avoid duplication specifically with Flux is to kind of decouple those two concepts, or decouple Flux doing a lot of things. And for instance, what we plan on doing is we plan on using just a Git hook, a server-based hook from GitHub that would listen to any sort of GitHub related events like pull requests and so on, and adapt that to a CD event and send that. I mean, we could do that with Spinnaker, because Spinnaker does the same thing, which uses the Git triggers and whatnot. But like I said, we wanted to keep Spinnaker doing just the normal Spinnaker stuff, and rather than trying to adapt things and make it send CD events, for particularly GitHub, which I feel like is a little out of scope for the tool. And then you have the risk of potentially duplicating events, especially if you're not careful with however Flux works with like propagation. Like for instance, in Spinnaker, you could have duplications, especially if the Git hook enters one endpoint, because it can hooks. There are multiple endpoints for hooks, so if they get sent to two different endpoints, it could send two of the same type of events. So to avoid that, I think using was that?
Sorry, yeah, no. I basically agree with you. It was more just to have the discussion, and the suggestion was coming from the people from the
Flux guys. Got it.
Flux guys.
Okay.
And Dan, it's going to. I think it's going to come up in the wider discussion of the providing of sending events from Flux. They had seen they already do send these type of events, and they have seen that it has been useful for people that were using Flux. So and because basically you'll see our later suggestion that Jalander is going to make on with Gerrit, it's fairly much what you were saying about GitHub. That feels like a more natural solution. But I'm sort of going, there's a practical thing here of the Flux guys are already sending these events to other people, and they're going, you're coming and your suggestion coming in with CDEvents, which is very much fitting with our pattern. Why would you not? They were going, it just came up in our presentation. I'm raising it here as a discussion point.
Yeah.
Well, the goal of Flux is not interoperability, right? The goal of Flux is a CD tool, right? Like the goal of CDEvents is interoperability. It's focused primarily on that. So why we wouldn't use their their language wouldn't make sense because it has nothing to do with interoperability. So, but yeah, you know, like I said, it sounds like definitely an interesting discussion that happened there. But yeah, I think it's from the sounds of it, just gathering from what you're saying, Andrew, it sounds like they might not have understood the purpose of CDEvents, and the reason why I say this is that when I first started pursuing CDEvents here internally at Apple, a lot of people thought it wasn't a interoperability type of language. They thought it was more like observability or like tracing or something of that nature. And then a lot of questions like, well, we already have something with like tracing. We already have, and it's like, no, that's not what it is, right? So maybe that was the issue. Maybe we can give them a simple like summary of like what CDEvents is and isn't. That's what I've been passing around at Apple, and it's helped a lot with future discussions with other teams.
Yeah, I think there are multiple aspects to this discussion actually. So one is that we maybe haven't touched upon now today is that I would see that the events should be sent from as close to the source of the actual occurrence in the system as possible. That would mean that a source change related event should preferably be sent from the source change system itself, if possible. But at the same time, if the source change or SCM system is not CDEvents aware or CDEvents capable, then it could, of course, be sent from other places. So, I mean, the CDEvents protocol itself doesn't really dictate which system should send the events, I would say. And it's finally up to the systems or the person deploying the solution where CDEvents is part to actually decide or set up where those events, in which system those events are sent. So if, for example, if both GitHub and Flux in this case, if they are both capable of sending the source change events, which GitHub is not at the moment at least, then it would be up to the deployer of that system in the end user environment to enable or disable that sending in the tool that it wants it to be sent from. And there could also be some third component in the middle there if we break apart GitHub and Flux and then add like an event or a GitHub webhook listener, which then would send the CDEvent and then trigger somehow the Flux workflows to run, and then that middle component could send the source change events as well. So from CDEvents perspective, from the protocol perspective, doesn't at all care, or doesn't at all, well, the protocol doesn't care who sends it, but it should just be one instance of each event, I would say. That's quite important. Yeah,
I really wanted to highlight the thing that you said that really is the philosophy that we should be following. Is the one thing that you said is that it should be sent as closely as possible for the thing that's doing the thing, right? So and the reason for that, like the reason why I think that's so important is well, the first one is that it's close to the actual thing that's sending it. So if you're creating links, for example, like the timestamps will be more close to when it actually happens. So that's kind of number one. And then number two, if a system does go down, specifically, let's say Flux goes down and like there's other tools, now these events or these CDEvents, right? Like they're not able to create the source change events along with any other events that is Flux capable or whatever Flux does, right? So that's kind of number two, is you're kind of putting all your eggs in one basket there. So those are the 2 points that I kind of see as you know, of being in favor of having some sort of other system that focuses more on source change. I mean, the end goal is to be able to get GitHub or Garrett to provide CDEvent protocols, or follow the protocols, but of course we can't do that today. So I think having some other system, particularly not Flux, doing this would probably be the better solution. I think that's really important from an architectural standpoint.
No, that's good discussion, and like I said, I think we're going to have further discussions with Flux. Well, Adam will be leading on that, on deciding particular events and trying to set up a, like, obviously we don't want, we'll want to try and have what we would do first, and but and we'll probably could be back here looking for advice on how to progress.
Yeah, and then another question for Flux, this is more of a Flux question, is let's say they do decide to send GitHub events as well, right? And then GitHub starts sending events. Like, what do they plan on doing? Just deprecating that feature, or like what's the idea there, So I'm curious to see what their plans are if they do. Just I'm gonna try to, if we can get a meeting with them, I'm gonna try to persuade them not to do that, to be honest. But they can do whatever they want. I definitely think they're gonna be in a world of hurt when if they start doing this with other tools other than GitHub, because GitHub is just one source control thing or source control system that Spinnaker uses, but there are multiple. So if we did that for every system, and then all these systems start implementing CDEvents on their backend, like GitHub, Garrett, for example, right? We would have to start deprecating every single one of those in Spinnaker. So it just doesn't seem like a good approach. But I'm curious to see what they say. Maybe they'll just say, hey, just don't turn it on for the source change events. But who knows, right?
Yep.
Right. So I guess we should continue. I see Andrea, you joined as well. Welcome here. Good to see. So Andrea, we moved down your bullet there about the governance proposal a bit, if you don't mind. I guess now, since we are
That's
at
perfect.
it and talk about the SCM integrations, I think we should look into the Garrett proposal here from Jalander, and then we should see what point to go into that next. But we have some agenda items left, and we need to focus and keep the discussions short and crisp, I guess. But please, Jalander, take it away.
Yeah, Emil. Sorry, I think we were discussing something about that Garrett. So my system went for reboot all of a sudden. I just joined back, not sure what happened. So this is the design approach that we wanted to discuss about the Garrett CDEvents integration. So one approach that we are planning to take is like create a translator between Garrett, like from Garrett events to CDEvents. So this approach will talk about. So we can open this in a URL. Emil, if you could that help me?
Or do you want to share yourself?
Oh yeah, so that's fine. I can share.
Yeah, then I stop sharing.
Can we see the screen?
Not yet.
Okay, not click, don't share. Okay, sorry. So this is the approach that we were planning to take, is like using an existing Garrett webhooks. So this Garrett webhooks actually send on every change, or every each occurrence happens within the Garrett. So these Garrett webhooks events can be translated into CDEvents, because for every occurrence, like we are now getting different types of events that is used by Garrett itself. So now, like, instead of implementing like what we are thinking, like the implementation takes creating a new CDEvents producer in the Garrett itself, like to send different types of events to the cloud events broker or any events message broker. But instead of that, like, we are not touching any of the Garrett source of now, only using the existing infra and side by. So we are planning to create a translator. So that will actually takes the Garrett events and then translate into CDEvent and send to CDEvents broker. message broker. So the Gerrit webhooks configuration looks something like this. So we can actually create a Gerrit webhooks configuration that will send events to any HTTP URL endpoints. So these URL endpoints can be any of the event translators. So that will be implementing newly. And based on this configuration, so it will send all of the events, whatever it's happening within the Gerrit, or it can send, like, we can filter something like, I want to send a few of the events like patch set created, something is updated, any branch created or branch deleted. So these kind of events only, if you want, we can filter out and then send to the URL that will be configured. So actual translator is this that we will be implementing, and this endpoint will be the new endpoint in the Gerrit translator CD events. So this is a new endpoint slash Gerrit event, something will be created. So that will essentially take the webhook event that is passed from Gerrit to this event translator, and then it basically maps the events to CD events. So we found like some of the CD events, source code control events that we have, you can see on the left side. So in the middle, like the Gerrit event type, so that we have the corresponding mapping that what we have CD event type available right now. So like repository created event is something like project created event, so that we get from the Gerrit event type, and this is the event payload we actually get. Using this, we can convert this into a CD event and send to the configured message broker. So like this, like we have different event types that are under source code control events. So we have deleted and created. So these are like some like event types that I've run it on my local system, like to see what exactly the data is coming and how we can map that with the CD events actually. So these are some identified events mappings so that we can translate to. And we also have so there are some of the events so that are not having any mapping right now. So if you see, these are the Gerrit events that is created or that is raised in different occurrences, like during the source code control changes or any branch updates and anything. So but we don't have any mapping for this.
Yeah, wouldn't they just be all the updated events technically? Wouldn't this,
Sorry, but
yeah, I think this would just be the updated event, a source change event, wouldn't it?
source code updated event.
Yeah,
You're talking about the event, is it?
Yeah, I'm looking for let me find all the CD events. All right, so we got source change, updated. Yeah, those would be technically updated, right? I mean, that's what you could probably use for deleted because that is technically updated.
This one, is it like repository deleted, you mean you were asking for?
Yeah. No, I'm just talking about if you go down to the ones that are missing, like
okay. Yeah.
very bottom.
Okay, the missing list. Okay.
Yeah, like change deleted. That's technically a change. That's still an update, right? I mean, but we can add a change deleted, but I think in place of that, you can definitely use change updated for actually all of these hashtags changed. Yeah, these are all technically updates. Reviewer added and deleted. Is that useful?
Yeah.
What is that useful in terms of CDEvents?
Yeah, so these are the events that is currently happening like with Gerrit. So but the discussion is like to initiate the discussion actually whether we need to pull some of the events in the CD events, new events needs to be added, or can we map to the existing events, is like what the discussion is open for. So we can discuss, yeah, probably. So what events can fit in within the existing events, or do we need to really create a new events for such type of Gerrit events that they're missing right now? So
Got it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Ben. I mean, we had the change updated event, and I think that matches multiple of these. The whip state change, for example, and reviewer added and deleted will probably match there as well if it's needed. But of course, if we see a need for having a dedicated event for any of these in the future, we could add it as well. But to begin with, I guess many of these could be mapped to the change updated event.
Yeah, and then kind of like expand on this a little bit too, is that you know, GitHub has also a very massive API, right? But when I'm thinking of like what is useful in CD events, like even though they have a bunch of different types of events, it's good to note like these are going to be tools that are consuming these type of events to do some sort of action in CI CD, right? So for instance, if reviewer added was an event in CDEvents, like what use would that have on a consumer, right? That's the questions that I typically ask myself when I'm looking at what to bring in. Like, you know, we can definitely use the updated, you know, for this, but like I don't really see reviewer added or deleted having too much benefit in terms of the CI/CD space. There might be another system that might be useful for, but for CI/CD, I don't really see a lot of this to be too useful, especially like this vote deleted. I don't even, what's a vote in Garrett? Is that like just a thumbs up like a in GitHub or?
No, it's actually like you need to. It's like the +2. It's the approval. So
Oh, interesting. Okay.
so like you could the vote deleted. Say you can have a vote. The vote could be a verified. So and then you can have a vote. Somebody can override a vote and remove the vote from Garrett.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't at this moment limit what the people might use this information for. I just for the reviewer added and deleted, for example, I would say that there could be a visualizer that would visualize all source changes in your system, regardless of if they come from GitLab or Gerrit or GitHub or something else. And then it might make sense to be able to show in each such source change in that visualizer who is actually reviewing this one right now. So if the deployment of CDEvents for some user would like to show that, then I think we shouldn't hinder it. But we might not need a dedicated event for it at this moment.
Yeah, and that's what I was just gonna say is that we probably don't need because my concern is like if we start like leaking in too much like you know APIs, like that's my biggest concern. And if we have events that either satisfy that right now or you know could be potentially just not be too useful for end users. But I'm more of the, you know, let's take what we currently have and then wait to see what people once they start using CDEvents. If people like a lot of people on GitHub are like, hey, we really need a reviewer added or a reviewer deleted, then that's when we make the decision to go and make that a separate event. But I think right now we're still at too early of a stage to really know like what events people really care about in these particular like especially these type of APIs. Like for example, like in the GitHub APIs, the only ones that I really use is like git push, git pull, you know, like repository based ones as well. But like it's very small versus all the things that they support, right? So I think just keeping it there, and then you know if we get like a lot of people that's asking for you know a particular API, then I think we can revisit this. But yeah, like Emil was also saying, like both me and Emil is like, you know, like I think just the updated would suffice for probably almost nearly all of these, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, let's continue there. So was there anything else, Gerandro, on this specific?
Oh yeah, so I think so. This is the project that we are planning to create. I mean, like within the CDEvents community or CDEvents repo. So because CDEvents is the one who needs to maintain, and no changes or anything will be done from the Gerrit side. So we only using the external webhook plugin. So that can go with this translator. So I mean, like this translator can be managed independently within CDEvents community itself, and planning to create this as a CDEvents proposed project. So I think the next topic that we have, the governance discussion. So maybe I can add. So I'll get some clarity, I think, where this change should actually go in for actual approvals and actual review. So because this is like right now I have created this in my own space, but I wanted to get the people's review and comments and approval of this proposal to start actual implementation of this translator. So
yeah, and then one thing too is we can make the translator pretty flexible, where we can actually make this new tool, if you will, this new webhook, kind of agnostic to Garrett and like GitHub, for instance. I mean, it won't be completely agnostic, but we could probably do a pretty good job of where you know, you just have to flip a config flag to say, hey, you're listening to, you know, adapt Garrett events to CDEvents, or adapt GitHub events to CDEvents, because I think we can have one tool that does both of them. And the reason why I bring this up is because internally at Apple, we're going to write a GitHub one, but if there's already a repository that exists, and if the translator is flexible enough to where it just makes it easy for us to just say, hey, when you see this field, adapt it to this, or something of that nature, right? Where it knows how to do that, whether that's through some sort of like translator API, or if that's like some sort of common DSL or something of that nature, I think would go a very long way with like, you know, other source control managers. So that's kind of like my idea. So like, if you want to work with me, Joander, as well, because like I said, this is something that we've already talked a lot about internally at Apple, and would be really interested in potentially contributing even. So please let me know.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting. Like having a generic translator kind of thing. So I think it can translate of any source code, version control, tool, events maybe. Yeah.
I added to the protocol there as well, because we have been discussing at Ericsson some time ago if we should start using Argo events, which is it's some kind of intermediary that we're talking about right now, that could actually have a webhook listener for any kind of SCM system, and then call something internally in Kubernetes based on that comes in on that webhook, and that could then also send CDEvents internally, I would say, because it has cloud event support in its Argo events.
Yeah, Argo is awesome. So if we can use that plus 1,000, I love Argo. So yeah.
Yeah. So then must maybe be something made on top of Argo events than this. So that might make this implementation easier if we could leverage on something 100%. That already exists. So that's just one input there, Jalan. If you can look into that as well when investigating this further.
The only concern I have with all of these is that, I mean, we are taking in support for things, and I'm not sure how we can scale as a community. I mean, I think for the SCM parts is probably okay. We only have end system, but I hope, I mean, this is not going to be like the target approach that we take for every tool, because I don't think it would scale to maintain every translator for everything within the CDEvent community.
Oh, no. The translator should be pluggable. Like, it should have a plugin system. Like, if you need to add something, you know, they can just go ahead and add it. And, you know, and hopefully this becomes, you know, we design it in a way where people would actually contribute back. So hopefully that would make the scaling a little bit better. But yeah, I completely agree. But we need to make the translator just pluggable, where people can add their own custom tooling and whatnot.
Yeah, I think the translator for me, it's a fallback approach. I mean, because when you translate things from an event, you're not close to the source again, and you might miss some of the context, especially. I mean, for SCM, it's maybe not not critical, because SCM system are often the first step in the chain, if you will. But I mean, if you're going to just translate events from other things within the chain, it's going to be hard to build things like links, and how do you get that? Where do you get that information from, right? So that's why I'm saying, I mean, I think it's fine to get started, especially for things like GitHub and so forth. it's fine to have an adapter because we are not going to have like built-in support in the beginning. But where possible, I would, promote having that support from the respective community, because it means then that if they make changes on their side, that is going to be part of their CI, and things are breaking. I mean, if they break CDEvent supports, it's something that show in their CI. It's not something that we'll then need to discover in a component that we maintain as a CDEvent community, if it makes sense.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So Garrett specific things should preferably be done by the Garrett community itself, and the same with GitHub if possible. But now, since there is an Argo Events project, for example, then maybe it could maybe be implemented and maintained by the Argo Events project as well, if they see this something valuable for them as well. So yeah, I agree. We shouldn't spend all our resources on things like this, but it's very good to try out, and also to showcase to all these communities what the possibilities are.
Yeah, and then one thing I wanted to comment on though is that we could, because, like, for instance, because Apple is interested in CDEvents, right? We are going to have to make some tool that does GitHub, conversions, right? And the goal would be for GitHub to do this, but the problem is since CDEvent is in its early life, right? It's going to be really hard to convince them to do it on their end, right? But usually what happens is, some company or some person creates a tool. In this case, like it might be us, where we create this tool and then we open source it, and then usually that open source project gets ingested by the original like org, like in this case CDEvent. So they're like, oh, we'll gladly take that on, and then you guys take the tool. And then hopefully we can deprecate that tool, or even what might be better is give the tool to GitHub, and then GitHub might be able to repurpose that tool as something they can use internally to just send out events in general. But that's usually how I've seen progression with like I've seen it from like AWS side. Like I saw someone start a boat. Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Bodo, but that was the Python SDK. So some person just wrote that, gave it to AWS, and then AWS started using it, and then eventually became a team, and so on and so forth. So I've always seen it kind of go through that life cycle, with just as an example. So I think starting here makes sense, but the goal is, your concern is not to do this for everything, and I think this just being a one-off is more or less is going to be what happens. Until GitHub and Garrett get on board. If that makes sense, Andre.
I think we need to cut off the discussion there, unfortunately, because we have other things to dig into as well. And well, Garrett might not have the biggest footprint in the world as well for SCM systems, so we'll see. But if we are many in this community that want it, then of course it could be valuable anyway to look into it. So please, that's great. Yolanda, you can continue working on this.
Stop sharing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's try to move on then. Well, I just added one comment. Sorry, I can check. But we don't need to talk about it. I just added it for the completeness of the discussion. So in Garrett, there are, well, two ways of communicating. There is the stream events part, and there is the webhook part, which is more inbound versus outbound, or HTTPS versus SSH. So that's just to keep in mind, Yolanda, when looking further into this, if this is the way to go, webhooks, or if there are other pros and cons with other solutions when it's connecting specifically to Garrett. Just wanted to mention that, but let's move on. Should we take the connecting events, or should we go to tickets, or should we go to the governance? Any preferences from anyone?
I think for the connecting events, because it's going to be really short. It's basically I did the examples. I was waiting for your response, Andre, because Emil asked you kind of a question, so I was kind of like waiting. But since you didn't respond, I'll just push up a commit and see if this works for you. And Emil said that there was tools that might need to be updated. Well, they will need to be updated to support this kind of format with the links examples. So I just wanted to call that out. So if you could look at that last commit and let me know if that works, or if I need to do something different that might be easier for the tooling. So just let me know. So that's like the only comment. And then, you know, like I said, in terms of like merging, it should probably be, we should be able to merge this fairly soon once I fix that typo. I accidentally made target ID also the subject ID, what it should have been context ID, but yeah, I'll fix that.
Yes, I think it's good
Sounds
as well
good.
to have provided a README here. Maybe need some more explanations, but yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how deep I should have gone into
No,
it, but I
no,
was like,
of
maybe I'll
course.
just keep it, yeah, keep it just light for now and then figure
Good
it
enough
out.
to move on, I guess. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess there are still quite some outstanding comments in the PR as well that you should look into. But then we have the one from the respects from Andrea there as well. Yeah, there are quite a lot of comments on this one still. But I think we can sort it out together.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea, do you have any comment on this, or will you be able to review it, you think?
Yeah, I need to review. I mean, I think it's fine to have more example. The better, the more we have, the better. Yeah, I need to just check some of the examples. I mean, the examples that we have today are used for CI as well, both on the spec as well on the SDK side. So we just need to make sure that we pick the examples that we need from the different tools.
Yeah, that's a good comment.
Yeah.
Okay, should we leave it at that for this?
Yeah, that works for me. And then just, yeah, whenever you review, just let me know what else I need to do on my end. But I think I'm just kind of waiting now for responses, or resolving of comments. And then if I need to do something, just let me know.
Okay. So should we move on then? So what about the ticket and approvals proposal? Is there something? Is it Sean? Is it you? Or
And Sean and me.
Yeah, I think we could
Really?
pull it up and take a quick look if you guys want.
on this one, or on the other?
Actually, I think the HackMD document. Yes. So yeah, maybe we can start with the motivation and the use cases, just to remind everybody. So I guess if you want to go to the use cases, maybe let's look at that. It's under the proposal. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, use
Is it
cases
here?
on
Oh,
the-
so ticket is the one use case then, right?
No, go down. If you go
Yeah,
down,
sorry.
like, yeah, go to proposal,
Oh,
and
there
then
it
use
is.
cases. Yeah.
Yeah. So observability is I think the big use case. So just being able to, track from when the ticket was created, all the way to the artifacts that gets deployed and through the rest of the system. And then the second use case is interoperability. So being able to take some action based on a ticket either being transitioned or assigned or some other event. And those are pretty much the two big use cases that we could think of there. Any comments on those?
Sounds good to
Yeah,
me.
yeah, I guess interoperability, but yeah, of course. So I guess you could also trigger actions based on changes
Yes.
in these systems, right?
Right.
Yeah, like one great thing about interoperability in this regard is that, like if a ticket or if a PR gets merged and gets deployed to production, right? This system can then go talk to the ticketing API and actually update the ticket system. So I think that's really, really nice, a really great feature, if we can get it, because that's been something that our manager like constantly gets on us about is like closing our tickets. So we usually forget. So this would be huge for us.
Okay.
Yeah, this kind of
So-
helps get them into the life cycle of automation.
We have had quite a few discussions. I was looking actually into old minutes for this meeting here. So we have from earlier quite a few discussions about related things. There might not have been called, sorry, I'm gonna not have been called ticket, but rather issue or alert or something like that. And there are multiple people involved there. Now it's mostly you, Ben, and Sean that has been working on this proposal, but I think we should involve also the ones that were discussing this earlier this year.
So let me make sure I'm understanding, Emil. So was this ticketing or was this the incident?
No, not incident, issue.
It was
rather.
actually
It was
tickets.
Called,
oh, okay.
it was well, it wasn't called tickets at the time, but it was called
The
issues.
same
rather.
concept. Yeah. Okay,
same
okay,
concept.
cool.
Yeah. So there are some traces of that further down in these minutes in the HackMD document here as well. If you want to involve those people in your continued discussion of this.
No, absolutely. Yeah. If I'll try to find the link, or me or Sean can try to find that. And if we're unable to, maybe we can just like ping one of you guys, and maybe it's like in a Slack thread or something.
Yeah, I guess there are. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, so many issues.
So many issues. That was maybe not the right thing to search for.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's great to see. Anyway, so yeah, is this then the draft proposal? There's nothing yet.
No.
Right?
So
would you like comments on the HackMD document, or would you like to create a pull request?
no,
what?
we're gonna create a PR. So me and Sean talked about this the last SIG meeting, or last meeting that we had together. We're gonna create a PR. We wanted to probably do another session just to make sure things are grammatically correct, and just make sure we have all the answers to every question that we've had that we posed, and also add a diagram showing the interoperability portion, showing like how that would look, to kind of give people some idea rather than just words. So those are kind of like the last couple of items that are left before we create the PR. So we'll create a PR. It'll probably be a draft PR first, just to kind of get some eyes on it, and then get some comments. But yeah, so probably within the next couple of weeks, expect a PR here.
Cool. Looking forward. So should we leave this as
Great.
that then?
Thanks.
Yeah. Andrea, would you like to take over to talk about the governance, and maybe Harvard? Which one will you take first?
So I think the governance was hopefully is very quick. I mean, I was just wondering whether is there anything else that we should look into, that I should look into before we merge this. Yeah.
I'm still reviewing it myself. So I intend to finish that review. It won't be today, but maybe tomorrow. I've done most of it, I guess, and there's not really a contradiction to my ideas at the moment. So I think it should be quite straightforward to merge it soon. But I would like to just read through it, all of it before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the rest of you, of course, as well. Feel free to jump in and review this as well, because we will all in some way be affected by the governance, of course, of the project.
Yeah. Would it make sense to make like as a target date for next meeting to try and do like a final review in the meeting and
sure
approve
next
if
week
there are
should be
no
my
further?
Yeah, of course.
That hopefully gives some time to everyone else to chime in.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, I can review this tonight. I was meaning to look at it, but just had a lot on my plate, and now I'm in Europe. So, but I can spend a couple hours reviewing this as well. There's a lot of names I noticed from the current members list Oh, there's two names that I don't recognize. Are they still part of? Oh, I see his comment. Okay, I was gonna ask, are they still a part of the CDEvents life, or like where? I guess where are they is my question.
Unfortunately,
They,
not.
they're
Yeah.
not, unfortunately.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But that part is basically a copy of what we have today. So it's the bootstrap governance that we have today. And so, I mean, we need to do an election to change
Okay,
it,
okay.
basically. So my proposal there is to put three of the seats
That
up
works
for
for
election,
me.
and to keep Emil and myself for 1 year term, so that we have like staggered terms, basically. And so we would have 3 seats, Matthias, Eric, and Steve seats up for election. As soon as this is merged, we can start an election, basically. And so we would have 3 seats up for election, and those 2 seats would be 2 years. So then we would have then Emil and myself staying for 1 year, and then hopefully 3 new people staying for 2 years. And so then we aim towards having a group of 5. We don't know if we find enough candidates, but if we do, that's great. And yeah, so that we have then staggered elections. So basically every year we have some seats going up for election, and then we rotate.
Cool. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so targeting final review next week then. So what about Harbor, Andrea?
I think we can discuss it next time. I mean, I added some comments to the issues. If folks want to take a look, I will try and add some more in the coming days, or maybe make a proposal. It's what I mentioned last week as well about the artifacts event that we are missing, and the idea of adding support for custom events somehow. So yeah, but I think it's a longer discussion, and I think we can cover it in 3 minutes. But at least for the extra artifact events, I will try to make it there. Hopefully that will be relatively non-controversial, I think.
Yeah. So maybe just a final statement, Kjell-André, or Adam, do you have any statements on the Java SDK? Is that, I think we said last time that was the review up now.
Not from me anyway.
Oh, there is one, like the Java SDK generator part 2 PR. I think I'm expecting some review comments from.
Okay, it's not merged yet. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't manage to get to it, but also if anyone else has Java skills that would like to help with the reviews, that's more eyes is always better.
Any other final words from anyone? Great to see the large interest, I would say, here. It's nice. Okay. If not, thank you for today, and see you next time. Have a nice vacation, Ben.
Yeah,
Congrats.
thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.